Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome for another episode of the Paradigm Shift. Tonight, we're going to talk business, and I got a great guest for us, a very knowledgeable guest, a friend of mine, and a fellow member from the Apex family. Mr. Tomas Keenan is with us tonight. He's a seasoned business owner, a business coach, and the author of the book Unfuck Your Business. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Tomas Keenan. Good evening, Tom. How you doing?
Good evening, Velko. Thank you, sir, for having me on here. This one I'm looking forward to, and I got to tell you, I do a lot of these, and you've got the best intro I've seen yet. Well done, sir.
Yes. We got to give a shout out to my editor, Mr. Joel. That's all him. He's setting up the intro. You like that? Feels good.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Nice. Give us a little intro of yourself. Tell us a little bit about your business and what do you do, real quick.
Sure. So my main business is Top Class Installations. We're based out of Hicksville, Long Island, New York, and we specialize in the installation of GPS tracking and dash camera systems in commercial trucks.
Nice.
Yeah.
How necessary is that? Does every truck need GPS tracking in today's world?
Of course they do. I mean, it's how I make my money. So yeah. No, on a serious answer, yeah, 100%. The bigger over-the-road trucks are actually required by federal law to have an electronic logbook device installed. So basically, an ELD is the term for it. The ELD is a tracking device that goes in along with a tablet. It also ties into the computer of the vehicle, monitors the health of the vehicle, monitors how many hours the driver has been actively on duty, and the government is very strict in the amount of hours they allow truck drivers to drive or actually be on duty working. Once they go over a certain amount of hours, by law, they have to have a certain amount of hours of rest before they can come back to duty. So this is one of the ways that the federal government kind of tracks that and makes sure that it's done properly.
That's right. So Tesla share went up to $1,000 a share the other day, and a lot of people are saying it's because of the Tesla self-driven trucks that are definitely replacing the good old mother trucker. No offense to those who drive trucks, but unfortunately, people are saying, and specifically Elon Musk, that they're going to replace the traditional truck driver with self-driven trucks. Do you believe that this is going to happen in the near future? Or
Yeah, I totally do. I probably say we're at least a good 10, 15 years off,
good?
in my opinion, before it takes, really takes over. What they're not going to replace right away is the end service, the end of delivery service, they call it. So what they're doing with those self-driven trucks is they're basically going to have a truck that, let's say, goes from Dallas, Texas to New York to deliver materials back and forth. It's going to go from a major trucking hub to a major trucking hub.
Okay.
It still has to go from that trucking hub to the end user's facility or the consumer's home. So that's where the smaller delivery services are still going to come into play. And I believe personally that is not going to be automated for quite some time.
No, so it's not the end of this profession yet.
Right. We have a long time, in my opinion. Again, I'm not Elon Musk. I don't have smarts like he does, but I don't think we're as close, to completely handing everything over to the autonomous world.
Well, at first he said, don't buy my stock because it's too expensive, and now it's going off the charts.
That's just him being a marketing genius.
Yeah, he is the best. So let's talk real quick about your book.
Sure.
The title definitely gets people's attention. Unfuck Your Business. What can people find in this book, and why should they buy it right now?
Sure. So the book tells a lot about my history and my story. As a small business owner, I've been in business now. This is my second go around. I burned my first business to the ground. And my second go around here is Top Class Installations. And this September coming up is 11 years for us in business, myself and my partner. And we had the typical small business owner's curse. We were the technicians. And when I say technician, I don't just mean the guy who puts the stuff in the vehicle or the guy who turns the wrench. We were the operators of the business. So everything that went on in and around the business, we had to be involved, and otherwise nothing would happen. So since we were the technicians within the business, we were also the roadblocks in the business. And my book, Unfuck Your Business, goes in there and talks about the struggles that we went through, the people that we hired, and how we slowly backed out of the corner that we put ourselves into and started to develop the systems and processes, started developing and hiring the right people, implemented core values, mission statement, and a purpose into the company. And I go real heavy and deep into core values and why they're so important, not just for yourself as in business, but also in your personal life. I cover that heavily in the book. And honestly, it's pretty funny. So here we are at this interview now, and it's June 2020. My book went live on Amazon, I believe 53 weeks ago today.
Wow.
So we're just at a year.
That's
so
awesome.
which is pretty cool.
Well, yeah, and I can totally relate to that. When I was a great salesman at a dealership, and I decided to start my own business, and I was a terrible businessman, still learning how to be a businessman, and very selfishly, I was working in the business more than on the business, and I learned a lot from you. Right here in my office, I keep your buckets because
Yeah.
the way my business was set up, it was completely unscalable because I was the one selling all the business. I was the one executing the business, the services, and the one doing the follow up, and the one doing the marketing, and the one doing the accounting and the bookkeeping. It's ridiculous, and,
Yeah.
and it's just not normal. So now I want to scale, and I'm definitely learning a lot from you. But are you happy, and what would you change with your current situation right now?
It's a great question. What would I change in my current situation? One of the things that we did not do correctly from the get-go as business owners, especially in top class, is figure out a way to make recurring revenue, MRR, monthly recurring revenue. So the way that my business is currently structured now, we have to go out, we have to hunt, we have to kill it, and then we can eat it. So we get a work order that comes in from a GPS manufacturer partner, because keep in mind, we're just the installation company. We don't actually sell the solution. We don't sell the software. We don't sell the hardware. My team shows up, we put the product into the vehicle, we make sure it's working properly, and we're gone. So we have to have that service. If we're not out there performing service and performing installations, we make no money. I would set the business up, and this is something that we're currently working on now with a couple different verticals, but I would set any business up. I don't care what industry you're in, make sure you have some form of monthly recurring revenue that you're starting to build. And it's not going to be much at first. It might be, hey, I'm only making $20 residual this month. Well, the next month it's going to be 40. And it's basically compound interest. So at some point in time, you're going to turn around, you're going to say, holy shit, I've got $6,000 of monthly recurring revenue coming in now. And the goal here, in my opinion, and this is the same in your personal life as it is your business, the goal here is to become financially free. You want to make it so your business is producing enough money each month, we'll call it mailbox money, automated, coming in every month to cover your business expenses. And then anything that you generate on top of that from additional fulfillment, additional contracts, additional sales, that's gravy.
Yeah. So this is the foundation on every business, and if you don't have that, you will struggle. I know for sure.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, for sure. And also, if you speak to some business brokers or experts, and you and I both know in our Apex circle, gentlemen like Jeff Ducharme, who are just top-notch people. I mean, the guy he's amazing, and he's a business broker. And one of the first things he told me when I met him was like, hey, you don't have monthly recurring revenue in your business, and your business is going to be worth substantially less when it comes time to sell. So if you have any inkling, if you want to sell your business in the near future, make sure that you start educating yourself on what makes a business more valuable. And one of the first things that you're going to find out is that monthly recurring revenue, that residual that keeps coming in, that right there will make a business, I don't know how many more times valuable it is, but it is a multiple. For some reason, the multiple of 3 is coming into my head. I'm not sure if that's it, but Jeff would be the guy to hit on that. Also, another thing that makes a business really valuable is standard operating procedures, and it has to be documented, and it has to be in a central location for everyone to access. So, if, for instance, over at my team, listen, we're always evolving. We're not a perfect business, and I don't believe that a perfect business exists.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that we're working on since COVID-19 hit and everyone was kind of thrown for a loop, we were able to stay in business. Luckily, we didn't get shut down. We were deemed essential. However, our sales dropped by about 73% for 3 months. All right. So now it's like, all right, well, we don't have the everyday fulfillment stuff to worry about. I'm not quoting sales like I was as much. So let me take a look and see what can we actually make better within the business. And we invested and started using a software called Trainual. And I'm not saying to go out and use Trainual. There's several of them like that out there. But we started taking all of our bits and pieces, some of the installation guides, the standard operating procedures, some of the onboarding processes that we already had that may have been in a Dropbox folder or a Google Drive folder or in a PowerPoint presentation, and we started to import all of this information into Trainual. So now we have a centralized location and a systemized process for all of our new hires to go through when they come onto the team. So you come onto the team, we go into Trainual, we add you, and it automatically sends you an invite and says, hey, before you come on and start working for us, you have to go in and you have to learn the history of our company. So who are the founders? Why was this business started? Who is our ideal customer? What are we selling these people? How do we like to present ourselves based upon our core values and what we believe in as a company and as people, and so on and so forth. And then from there, it breaks down and starts training people on their individual role within the company.
Yeah, that's very powerful moment, and it's so important for building the business. What are some of the mistakes that you feel you wished you could have avoided?
Not taking action soon enough. So for instance, having the idea that, hey, I don't know it all, and maybe it's time for me to go hire a coach so I can expedite this process. And when I had the idea to hire a coach, because I was smart enough to know that I didn't know enough. I didn't know it all, and I wasn't going to learn it all in a fast period of time. So I had the inclination to hire a coach, and I dragged my feet for about 3 years. And part of that complication there was also me having a business partner who wanted nothing to do with the business coach. And it was like, all right, well, I got to work on this guy. We're 50-50 partners in this company. We have the same end goal, but we have different ideas of how to get there. So what's the compromise? And the compromise, and I going back on it, I wish I hadn't waited and wasted so much time waiting for the perfect moment. And I wish I would have pulled the trigger, even if I had to pull money out of my own personal account. And I wish I would have gotten started sooner working with a professional who knew more about building a business and structuring a business than I did at the time.
Yeah. How important is finding the right business partner, and how important is to not have a 50-50 partnership, at least 51-49 for situations like that, right?
Sure. I consider myself extremely lucky with my business partner. If you look at us, and we've actually taken personality tests as we've gone through different coaching programs together, and on paper, we are polar opposites. Where he's strong, I'm weak, and where I'm weak, he's strong. And that's one of the reasons that our partnership works.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah. So, the shit that I can't stand doing, he loves, and vice versa. So that's why it works well. But I feel as if I found the unicorn. My partner, we butt heads. We had a love fight today. Even, we just argued over some nonsense. And 5 minutes later, we're on a phone call, professional as could be, talking about a potential deal for our company that could be worth about $500,000 next year. So we're fortunate that we can kind of put the BS aside very quickly. But going into it, I don't know if I would do a partner again. I really, honestly, and I have a great partner. I really do. We have agreements in place as far as partnership agreements. We got the lawyers involved. It took us a couple of years before we got that done, but we did it, and we're protected. God forbid one guy wants to be a dick. Everything is there laid out, so on and so forth. God forbid one of us passes away. We have coverages there as well. But I don't know if I would do it again. And if you are going to go down that road, you 100%, you have to make sure that the person is who they say they are. Now, I knew my partner for 10 years before we got involved in business.
One of the biggest mistakes I've made in my business is I definitely underestimated the importance of the proper formation.
Mm.
What kind of company you're gonna have, and how much taxes you're gonna pay, and all those things. So the big boys, the elite, really focuses on the formation and the partnership and those agreements that you're talking about, because learning as you go could cost you a lot of money and a lot of stress. And there are millions and millions of businesses that have folded in history. So all it takes is learning from their mistakes and learning from the principles of the businesses that didn't fold. But uh, we don't really focus on education that much. Just like you mentioned, your partner was against coach, and I'm sure he isn't now. But education is so important, and just at least for the foundation in the beginning. So how did you know when you had the right idea for the business? Because that's what a lot of people are struggling with. And I just had a Brandon on a show yesterday, Gazaway. I'm sure you
Mhm.
know. And we were talking about pivoting and how important it is to not put your preference into your own business, because that could be devastating, and your beautiful vision could be destroyed by something like COVID-19. And if you're going to be waiting with nostalgia for things to go back to normal, it may get worse. So he's now doing hand sanitizer, and he was producing totally different things. But what do you think is the most important part about figuring out the business model and the purpose of your business? Because you mentioned a lot about core values. What if your core values and your vision don't really match with with the with what you sell,
Yeah, you might have a hobby and not a business.
right?
So I'll give you a little bit of a story to answer your
How,
question
how
as
do you
best
how
I
do you
can.
choose the how do you choose the right idea for business?
It's a really tough question. There's got to be a need in the marketplace. So you
Right.
have to be able to have some kind of idea to go out there and learn and listen to what the marketplace is telling you. You have to be able to take the hint, and I don't have another way to tell it to somebody, but you have to be receptive, and not everyone has that ability. So here's
Yeah.
what happened with us. So I started, and my business partner as well, we started as custom car audio installers. We installed audio gear into cars. That's what we did. We built all the crazy custom stereo systems, the custom enclosures, the fiberglass, the paint, the vinyl. We did all that stuff. And we were really good at it. We had a great following, and we made, we'll call it decent money. And when we first started Top Class Installations, typical small business mentality, all business is good business is what we believed. So you call me up and say, hey, Tom, I want to put a remote start in my daughter's car. Okay, no problem. Here's a quote. Well, I'll be over tomorrow to do it, because I was the one doing it. And at the same point in time, we had one or two GPS contracts that were going on. And as we began to get busier and busier and busier, the GPS market grew as well. We started running into a problem. And here was the problem. We would have someone call us up and say, hey, I have 2 cars that I want to install remote starts on. Can you do them next week? We would book these appointments. Okay. And the beautiful part about this, it was a cash business. We would show up, we would do maybe an hour to 2 hours worth of work, roughly, approximately, on each vehicle. And we would get paid in cash immediately. Okay. So at the end of you performing your task, you get paid. It's great. What we were giving up, and what we didn't realize until much later, was that by focusing on these appointments, we were not making ourselves available to the GPS companies who were calling us up and to say, hey, I've got 30 vehicles for you to do tomorrow. I've got 300 vehicles that I need done next week. I've got 3,000 school buses I need you to do by the end of summer. We were so busy focused on the small stuff. We were pretty much, this is the analogy. We were settling for good. Meanwhile, there was great looking at us, staring at us, and we were too busy working on the good to realize that great was there. So after a couple of years, the light bulbs went off in our head and was like, oh, wait a second. we get paid a lot more money to go do this work in the school buses and the trucks than we do to go install Sally's remote start at her home. And I mean, Sally only gets a new car every 3 years or so. So, I mean, you know, lifetime customer value, she's good for maybe, I don't know, $3,000. Meanwhile, we can go work for this GPS company that once we sell them one time and we prove to them that we are who we say we are, we do what we tell them we're going to do, we show up on time, we do quality professional work, they open up the faucet and they never shut the flow of work off. That's what we were giving up by focusing on the $300 remote start. So that was a tough lesson and a tough pill to swallow.
A lot of entrepreneurs make that mistake, and they stay in primitive state because of lack of cash flow and just trying to make money with what's comfortable, with the low hanging fruit. We know how to put remote starts. We can do as many of this as possible. And so what helps you to stop and really evaluate what's the best opportunity? Because so many, and it's so much easier for somebody to walk by that business, observe it for a minute and be like, guys, what are you doing? Right? Is that what it takes? Or
yeah, that's pretty much what it took. So we hired one of our first business coaches, and he put me through a very similar exercise to the page that you held up, which is my time bucket exercise from my book. We worked through it in his office on a whiteboard, and he gave me his version of it. I went out there, I did my time study, and I quickly said, oh my God, I can't believe how much time I'm wasting performing these $10 per hour tasks, because working as a technician in your business is a $10 per hour task. And when I say $10 per hour task, I'm saying that you could hire somebody else to perform that task for you for less than $100 per hour. Okay, so that's the bucket. The bucket's $10 to $99 per hour, we call it. So I can hire someone for, let's say, $20 an hour to come in and actually install the remote starts for me, to install the GPS for me. By spending that money, and it might be scary to spend that money, it might be scary to give up your baby and give up some control, but by spending that money, you're ultimately freeing up your time. Okay, time is that one resource it's not unlimited, and we can never make more of it. However, if you learn to leverage someone else's time, which we're doing here, which is what we're trying to explain, you can then go focus on something that's more important, and maybe not so more important, but something that's going to make you and your business more money. So if you can go and focus on, let's say, the $100 per hour bucket, which is going to be your sales and marketing, go for it. Go focus your time and sell the job, and then keep your technician busy. And it's pretty much a cycle. So we went from technician, we went from sales and marketing, and then we went over to your $1,000 per hour bucket, which is pretty much working on the business. Like I mentioned before, talking about Trainual and bringing everything over into one central location. That to me is $1,000 per hour task or greater, because I'm working on my business, and it's going to make the value of my business, as we explained earlier, exponentially larger.
I love the fact that you also put the personal relationships in that bucket as well, the relationship with the family, with the kids, with the significant other, because that's where, you know, successful businessmen would spend all of their money to recover at the point where they sacrifice those relationships for money, and eventually they can't go backwards. So it's so important for people to value those relationships on the way up. How do you handle the adversity and doubts with being a business owner?
Let me tell you, man. I thought I had overcome that hurdle, and just recently. Okay, I had to learn this lesson over and over and over again, and I think it's one of the lessons in life that you're just going to continue to learn. You're going to continue to get kicked. So every time that I've gone out to do something to better myself, to better my business, I have had fierce opposition, and from the people closest to me. I'm talking friends, I'm talking family, I'm talking loved ones. You know, and when I say family, I'm talking like moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas. I'm not talking about, you know, your third cousin, Sally, who lives in Alabama. And I just wasn't prepared for it. So it's funny. My wife and I just put our house on the market, and we had to tell our families that, hey, we're selling the house. And the reason that we wanted to tell everyone is we're actually moving out of state, and we're close with our family. And here, the same situation. We tell the family, hey, guess what? We're doing this because we're trying to become the most elite versions of ourselves. We're trying to surround ourselves with like-minded people. We see an opportunity here to live a better lifestyle. And not for me personally. This is not for me. This is for my children, and this is for my wife. I want them to have the ultimate life that they can, because I work my dick off for it, and they deserve it. So here I am trying to make things better, and better my future, better my children, better my grandchildren's lives. And the crabs in the bucket, the local family members, they are scared, which I get. And they came out of their shells and said, hey, we don't want you moving. This is a mistake. I don't understand why you're doing this. The same shit that I heard when I started my first business from my grandfather, when he told me that I was just an unemployed fool. Yeah, and here I am now, fast forward 20 years later, and I've got two multi-million-dollar businesses. So, I mean, yeah, was it scary? Was it foolish at 19 or 21, however I was when I started my first business? Yeah, I did some dumb things, but guess what? I figured it out. I learned, and here I am. And am I the most successful person on the planet? Absolutely not. And I know I'm not. I know I still have a ton to learn. But if I had listened to other people, and I had not taken the chance and not believed in myself, not had faith in myself, I wouldn't be where I am today.
That's right. Yeah, one of the things is just simply surviving the deception state. And I think that's what helped me, because I've made major mistakes, and all of my close ones were begging me, please go back to work. You're so good at this. You can make money left and right with just go getting a job. I'm like, nope, I would rather die. and and I went through the struggle. But when you have one of my biggest strengths and weaknesses is my persistence. So I just don't see a way of me giving up, and only the future will show if I made the right decision or not. But there's two types of people right now, and I think that they've always been the two types. And some of them are just still sitting at home. I'm so shocked that there are people still under quarantine. It doesn't matter what state you're in. If you're still under quarantine, there's something wrong. And those people are waiting for things to go back to normal. And some people are on attack with 100 miles per hour. So is your business currently in survival mode or in growth mode? And if it is in survival mode, what's your plan? If it is in growth mode, how are you planning on growing the business in the next few months here?
No, we are in full-blown attack mode. We were in survival mode for a couple of weeks, to be completely transparent with you. Like I said, we had a 73% dip in sales, which hurt. A lot of the companies that we work for were on a 30-day net 30 term with them, and some of them stopped paying. It's like, oh, geez, what do I do? And we wound up laying off a large portion of our installation team. And some of the guys sat home for a little while, and we laid them off because we didn't have enough money in the bank to sustain their payroll. And this goes right back to what we said earlier about having the monthly recurring revenue and why it's so important. If I had monthly recurring revenue in the business, I could have afforded to pay my technicians to sit home. All right. But since I didn't, and that was a mistake that I made going back 10 years ago, we couldn't do anything about it. So we laid off our guys, and we said, please go collect unemployment, go get some money. And in the next couple of weeks, when things turn around, we're going to call you back, and we want you back on this team. And we're going to basically, the spring is pulling back, and we're going to let go of that sucker, and it's going to take off like you wouldn't believe. And that's where we are right now, which is pretty cool. So yeah, we're definitely growing the business. We were very fortunate in the fact that we received funding from PPP and EIDL money from the SBA. So we got a large chunk of change from the government, which 100% helped us out, and it helped us get over that hump and steady our cash flow, so we could reemploy our team members. Now, COVID, I'm actually very grateful for it. And I know there's some bad shit that's happened. Yes, I definitely believe that people have died because of this. But at the same point in time, there is good that comes out of everything. And I know that I'm not the only business who sees it this way, and I'm not the only business who's experienced this. We were funded with several $100,000 from the government, okay, which is going to great use. I am now able to take that money as a business owner and pass it on to my team. I pass it on to my team. They wind up passing it on to their families and reinvesting it into the local economies, which helps other small businesses grow.
Yeah.
That's a win for me right there. Also, it brought the low performers right to the surface of my team. So the guys who wanted to stay home and, like you said, stay under quarantine as long as possible and keep collecting that check, they bubbled right to the surface real quick. And going back to core values and why we believe in them so importantly, we ran everybody through our processes again and said who really fits and who doesn't. And we actually asked a couple guys to not return. So you were laid off. We actually sent everyone a letter saying, hey, we're rehiring. Please come back to the team. And we had a couple of guys, let me put it to you this way. They whined. I don't know. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Now, these people are healthy. They're not sick. They're deemed essential. We have very, very strict measures in place for when we interact or go to a job site to see a customer. And these people flat out didn't want to work. So, okay, you're not a fit for my team. I hate to break it to you. And I don't want that to sound harsh, but you have to understand my situation here as a business owner. I still have a business to operate. My customers are still calling saying, hey, I need somebody here to service this device. Now, as I told you earlier, some of the heavy trucks that we service are mandated by the federal government to have these systems in place and operational. All right. Trucking did not slow down throughout COVID. Trucks were still running. Trucks were still delivering food to the food stores. They were still delivering milk to the food stores. They were still, delivering the supplies from the Amazon warehouse to the Amazon warehouse so you can get your shit from Amazon. That did not slow down one bit when it came to the whole COVID thing. So we had business. And if I don't have team members that want to work, I'm sorry, but I can't help you. You're just not the right fit for my team. And one of the other reasons that we were comfortable with doing that is because the job pool just grew exponentially. So the talent pool just grew. So we knew several of the big GPS companies, several of the big dash camera manufacturer companies that we work for. Lots of them have in-house installation crews. Several of them downsized. They had major layoffs. Mm-hmm. So guess what? We have some of the most talented people in my industry who are now available and are looking for work. Do you think I'm not going to go after them? Yeah. Of course I am. So I'd rather get a guy who's a rock star, who's a 10. And, I hate to say it, but if you're a 6 and you're on my team, I'm going to get rid of you so I can go get the 10 to replace you and the 2 other guys that would have come in behind you because he's that good.
Yeah, that's a good point. And speaking of the team, it's so important. And it took me a while to figure out how to build my team. So how did you build your team? Start from the very beginning. Obviously, in the beginning, it was just you and your partner. But when did you decide to add another person? And I'll tell you a little bit of my story. I used my own capital. I was fortunate enough to save a couple $100,000 when I started my company. So I made the mistake number one by risking my own money, and I hired people. And I totally forgot about cash flow, and I was training them. And one day I ran out of cash, and I was paying them cash, and I was using my credit cards to support my family, and it was just the dumbest mistake I've ever made. But anyways, how did you build your team?
Yeah, very, very similar. We have lots in common, my friend. So we got to the point that myself and my partner, Jimmy, we couldn't handle any more installation work on our own. So you stick with what you're comfortable with. So we said, all right, well, the first thing we've got to do is hire more installers to come help us while we go out to these job sites and work in the field with us. So that's where we started. We brought on 2 or 3 people that lasted a year, 2 years. They moved on. And then finally we hired our installation manager, our current installation manager, Mr. Robert Felix. He's a fantastic individual. He might as well be my brother at this point. We consider him family. This is the kind of person is the right fit for you. But we had no process when we hired Robert. I don't even know what he stuck around for. I don't know what he saw in myself and my partner, but something inside of Robert said, hey, you know what? I'm going to hang out here with these guys for a little while because I've got a funny feeling that something good's going to come about this. And, Robert's been with us now about 7 years, but we just got lucky with him. We didn't know anything about core values. We didn't know anything about, what are the traits that we are looking for inside of a leader in our company? What are we looking for for an installation technician? And Robert just happened to fit all that perfectly. So we got really lucky there. And also our office manager, Juliana, same deal with her. She was my business partner. One of his close friends is his oldest daughter. And she's a formerly trained school psychologist. She couldn't get a job because that field is just saturated.
Wow.
And she's got a master's degree in school psychology. And she's like, hey, I need a temporary job. If you guys need some help, making some phone calls and whatnot, I'll help you out. Well, again, that was 7 years ago. She's still with us. Again, we just got so lucky that she was a great fit. These are like ride or die people. They help you no matter what. I can call any one of them up right now at 10 o'clock and say, hey, I'm in a personal jam. Could you help me out? And 10 minutes later, they would be there. That's the kind of people they are. So once we started working with business coaches and started designing processes and started, I talk about heavily in my book, we started hiring bad people. And I walk into my business coach's office one day, and I used to go see him every Friday. And he goes, his name was Dean. He goes, hey, Tom, you okay today? You don't look good. And I was pale. I was heavy. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't exercising, nothing. I'm like, man, Dean, I'm not doing too good. I'm like, we just had our 3rd shitty hire back to back to back. Like, we hired this guy. He lasted a month. And he either quit or we fired him. I don't remember what it was. This happened 3 people in a row. And we were making a cup of coffee in a little kitchenette of his office. And he's like, so you've been working with me now for about 2 years. Are you ready to implement core values like I've been telling you since the second day you came into my office? And I was just like, he just like zinged me just enough he just hit the right spot. He made it hurt. And I just like put my head down in shame. I was like, oh, God damn it. He's so right. So I said, all right, I'm with you. You got me sold on it because I don't know what else to do at this point. So we went back into his office, me, him, my partner, and no exaggeration, for the next 6 months, we worked on just hashing out our core values, what they are, what we believed in. And we then transitioned all of that information over to our hiring process. So what are we looking for when we hire somebody? And your hiring process, to me, hiring is a big marketing funnel is all it is. And then once you get the lead into the funnel, then you put them through the sales process. It's the same exact thing. So if anybody here has been through any kind of sales training, if you use, let's say like a CRM, like Pipedrive, and you got someone in, hey, you're a lead. Now we move you into contacting stage. Now we move you into the interview stage. What are the stages of your hiring process? And I had no idea that's how it worked. But when somebody with experience, the coach, shows you and gives you these little tiny tweaks that go ding, the light bulb went off in your head. It's like, you know what? That guy was worth the $35,000 it cost me this year.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much just how it went, but it wasn't until we started developing and implementing a rigid hiring process. I shouldn't say rigid, that's probably the wrong term, but a hiring process that was, hey, these are the steps that we go through when we hire, and we don't go off of them. Because once you make the exception for the friend of the family who wants to come in and work for you, you get off of your hiring process and you allow the wrong people into your team. When you allow the wrong people into your team, it's like a cancer for your business's culture.
Yeah.
You allow that bad apple in and forget it, man.
when you're a startup and when you can't offer a lot of money, we hire out of desperation sometimes. That was my problem. I used to have a special process. I used to have like a question that if they fail, I promised myself, if they fail that question, I would not hire them. And I hired so many people that failed that question. And
Mhm.
it's kind of like, but I used to also, in relationships with girls, I would see the best in them, and I would, take them as projects because they're good looking, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make something out of them. And that's one of the biggest mistakes. You gotta get the person who's already a finished product, and put them to work. And they need a
Mhm.
little bit of adjustment. That's not a big deal. But if they need training from scratch, and if you think you're gonna create a salesman from somebody who never ever sold anything in their life or doesn't even have interest in that, it's the biggest mistake you can
Mhm.
make.
Yeah, it's doable, but it's very difficult. So
Yeah.
we don't really have too many salespeople in my business, just the way that it is. But the biggest role that we hire for in my company is installation technician. And we had two friends of the family who, hey, my son needs a job. Can he come work for you for the summer? Sure, desperate. This guy's only going to cost me, let's say it's $150 for the day, cash, no problem. Come on in. So we wound up hiring these two young kids right around the same time, and they were great. They were amazing. We trained them from the ground up, so they didn't come in with any of the bad tendencies. They only knew how to do it our way because that was the only thing they had ever seen. But the problem was this: it took them 8 months each to get to the point where we could send them out on their own. So it was 8 months that each of these guys had to come and work with us side by side and get trained on the job each and every day. So I'm paying this guy to get trained for 8 months, and he's really not making me any money. Matter of fact, he's slowing me down while I'm in the field because I have to explain everything twice to him and not work as efficiently as normal. Um, but they were fantastic technicians that we brought onto our team. They wound up both leaving us and going and getting different jobs. One guy went back to school, and one guy actually went off and became a project manager for a big construction company. But they were great individuals. They were great employees. They were bend over backwards guys, but it took so much time to get them up to
Yeah.
speed. So as great as they were, I would never do that again because it took too much upfront time, resources, and materials to get them to the point where we could say, hey, go take care of that new install, and let's call it a 2019 F350.
That's right. That's right. So, how can the people who are watching us right now, how could they be a good leader? What are some of the things? I know that you're very, very focused on the core values, and I really want to talk about core values too, and maybe
Mhm.
you can share some of your core values so you can give ideas on some of the people watching. But how can I be a good leader, and how can people watching could be better leaders?
Great question. Um, I don't think leaders, in order to be a leader, you don't have to be perfect. That's a misconception that a lot of people have. One of the things that I'm a true believer in is if you want to be a leader, you need to read. You need to read often. You need to educate yourself. You need to put new ideas into your mind. And there's a couple of very influential books that I've read that helped me become a better leader. The number one that comes to the top of my mind is EntreLeadership by Dave Ramsey. And I don't care what you think about Dave Ramsey and the way that he presents his financing and how to make money and save money as an American. The EntreLeadership book has nothing to do with his ideology around saving and making money. It's his leadership style in his multi-million-dollar corporation that he owns that most people aren't aware of that he owns. The guy's been in business for like 40 something years and has hundreds of employees out of Tennessee, hundreds. So yeah, he knows a couple of things about running a big organization and hiring and bringing the right people onto the team and dealing with very unique situations. So the stories that he tells in that book they align with me really well. And he tells some gut wrenching stuff and some situations that he's been in as a leader, as a boss, that he's had to go through with having a team underneath him. So yeah, that's definitely a read that I recommend. And I think people will be able to get a lot of really good, valuable content from that book alone. And I'm a firm believer that if you read books in the leadership vein, you're pretty much going to become a better leader just because of that.
Yeah. What's the other one that you recommend?
What's another good one?
You don't like Dave Ramsey's strategy for saving or getting out
Well,
of?
his whole deal is basically, don't put anything on a credit card. Like, pay everything in cash and
Yeah.
don't ever use a credit card. Don't ever leverage money. And I don't necessarily believe in that. I mean,
Especially in business.
yeah. Like, listen,
We
in my opinion,
don't do that.
yeah. So the way he looks at it is all debt is bad debt. And I don't think so. I think that personal debt is bad debt. But if you're taking debt out that is going to make you an ROI on an investment, so you mean to tell me I can take somebody else's money and go make money with it? I'll do that all day.
This is the problem with the middle class right now, and that's why all these middle class businesses are getting their ass handed right now, because all the large companies, all the big corporations are operating in the opposite of what David Ramsey preaches. They take big loan, they pay taxes, they pay debt, and they have profit. Loan, taxes, debt, profit. Credit, taxes, debt, profit. And if they lose, they lose. They start a new company. United did it. All the casinos in Vegas did it. Like so many American Airlines, so many. Trump did it 3 times. So many big examples of huge companies, big names that have folded 3, 4 times, and they just restructured, and they took massive amount of money, and they're getting bailed out because they're essential, because they're so big. Like Caterpillar, one of the worst. They've made so, and rental companies. How can a rental company go out of business? Obviously, COVID would help, but imagine this is a perfect business model. You don't pay for the car. You don't pay for. You get rid of it before the warranty expires. Every time when you rent a car, you pay for your own insurance, huge premium. So how could they lose money? They should have a huge margin of profit. But because they borrow so much and they play on such a huge scale, if 1 week they don't rent, 10%, if they rent 10% of their cars in 1 week, they're going to lose their business. That's what happened to them. And so I agree with you on that, because a lot of those small businesses are owned outright, and they don't have any debt, and they also don't have too much savings, and they don't have a lot to borrow, and they don't have any chance to borrow, and they don't believe in that. Their mentality is like, no, I want cash flow. I don't want to borrow money. It's too scary. I don't want to own anyone. But unless we follow the example of the big corporations, it will be hard to become one.
It's so true.
So, how did you get your idea or concept for the business? You talked a lot about that, but it wasn't your favorite thing. Obviously, it wasn't your dream to be installer of GPS units. You didn't, like, when you were 5. You're like, Mom, I just want to install GPS units. How do you?
No.
What helped you to start loving this, so you could become the expert and you become the go-to name when it comes down to installing GPS?
Sure. So
in the market, you know what I mean? So people choose your company, because you got to take, at some point, you got to take ownership of what you do, that you're the best in the world, even if it wasn't your choice of business, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the way it happened for us was, going back to the story, we were car audio installers, and we basically saw a better opportunity. So the skill set that we had developed as car audio and accessory installers, it parlayed right into the GPS installation so perfectly. I mean, the same connections you're making for car audio, you're making for GPS, but on a smaller scale. Let me give you a for instance here. So if we put a remote start in a vehicle, right? And it doesn't make a difference. I'm just giving an arbitrary example here. Typically, it's about 30 wires that need to get connected and tied into the correct circuits in a vehicle for this remote start to work properly and last forever, okay? A GPS install is 3 wires, 3 connections.
Wow.
Okay, so the remote start, the parts are going to cost me 150 to 200 bucks depending on the car. Okay, and I'm going to charge you $300 to $350, and it's going to take me 2 hours of my labor to do this. Okay, I can go and install a 3-wire GPS for you right now, and I'm going to charge you 75 bucks and be happy and walk away, plus travel to get to you. So I'm spending 30 minutes to make that 75 bucks. And once I connect 3 wires, which I don't need, as harsh as this sounds, I don't need the same skill set from a technician to install 3 wires versus 30.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So now my training goes from 6 months down to 6 weeks.
And the turnaround is faster.
Yep.
That's scalable now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's talk about the core values and the mission statement. And is it important for you and your partner to share exactly the same core values? And is it also important for the employees to share those values? And how do you interview your employees to make sure that they do share the core values?
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't, do you offer them the core values and see if they like them? How do you see if they fit, or if they don't mention them? I'm very curious of finding that out.
Sure. So I don't think that everyone's core values are exactly identical. So I mean, everyone's got their own twist to it, but there's going to be some overlapping beliefs within people. So my partner and I, we believe in a couple of things that we agree upon, and then we have some core values from each other that are completely opposite that we just don't align on. But as business owners, we had to come together and say, all right, what's the happy medium? What are you comfortable with? And since writing my book, we've actually redone our core values. So if you have a copy of my book, or anybody here gets a copy of it, you're going to see 7 core values. We dumbed it down and made it 4 core values. We call it CP squared. And I'm going to read them off to you here. So the first one's communication. The next one is caring. The next one is profit, and then professional. And we simplified this because we want it to be so easy to remember that even our team members, the people who didn't create these core values, know them. Yeah. All right. So now when it comes to the hiring process, we develop, and I have an ace up my sleeve, because going back to what I told you earlier, my office manager, Juliana, she's a school psychologist by trade. Okay. She's got a master's degree in psychology. She is one of the biggest pieces of our hiring process. So she gets the initial 2 phone interviews with the applicant, and she has designed questions based around our core values that she brings these people through. And if they don't give her the correct answers, if they don't match the core values, they don't move on to the next step in the hiring process.
So you don't even get to see them, because sometimes you'll be like, I like that guy. Let's give him a chance. That would be your weakness. That would be me.
Nope. It's kind of like speak to someone who invests in real estate and ask them if they've ever looked at the house before looking at the numbers. And what do they go by? They don't care what the house looks like. What do the numbers tell me? Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. So we've actually developed the hiring process now where we put each applicant through very intentional, specific hoops. I talk about it in the book too. So one of the most common things that we do is we'll utilize Indeed or ZipRecruiter to hire. We'll go in there, we'll make a nice bulleted job list. Hey, this is the description. These are your roles, what you're going to do for us. This is the pay, yada, yada, yada. And Indeed and ZipRecruiter, they're great platforms. They make it very easy for the applicant as well as the person hosting the job to communicate and submit resumes back and forth and view everything. The problem is, if you post up a job and it's got a lot of heat, a lot of traction, and people want to come and work for you, you're going to be inundated looking through resumes. And 95 to probably higher, I'd say 98 to 99% of those resumes are complete shit. Mm-hmm. So how many hours did you just flush down the toilet looking through resumes that are just So what we do is at the end of that Indeed or that ZipRecruiter ad, we'll say, if you would like to be considered for this job, please send an email to this email address with this specific subject line. If you do not do this, you will not be considered for the role. So the people who submit the application and it comes through in Indeed, We just go in there and go delete, 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 never even open it up. So what we're doing here is we're saving time. So now, exactly. If you can't follow the simple instructions before day 1, what are you going to do to me on day 90 when I have to give you something that's complex?
Yeah.
So we're just eliminating the people who aren't complying from the get-go. Now, the 3 or 4 people who will actually send the email with the correct subject line and so on and so forth, they've told me that they are attention to detail driven. They read through everything. They follow directions. They follow easy directions. And you know what? Now we're going to take you to the next step in our process. And our hiring process is slightly different depending upon which role we're hiring for in the company. Yeah. So the next step for an installation technician would be we'll send them a link to go take our online test. So here's a 10-question test. 8 of them are multiple choice and 2 of them are going to be situational based. Again, I'm not looking at the answers for the test. I just want to make sure that you went and took the test. I asked you to take the test. I gave you 48 hours to take the test. Go take the test. So now if we have, let's say we have 100 applicants and only 5 people get through this step and take the test. Now I'll take those 5 tests. Well, I'll look at those 5 tests and say, all right, how are the answers that this guy's giving? And, it's funny. What most of these guys don't realize is that each of the answers, except for the last 2, which are situational, you can go onto Google and get the answers for within a microsecond.
Yeah, that's one thing that I test on as well, because everything is on Google. So sometimes I would ask them questions that they just need to Google the answer. I want to see their common sense, because there's just so much information. And when people say I can't, I always correct them to say, instead of I can't, I don't want to, or I don't know how to. And if you don't know how to, we've got a huge platform here that has everything you need to know. Harvard just posted 30% of their materials online, 100% free. So there's everything is available on Google now. All right, Thomas, we are coming close to the end of the show, and it's been such a pleasure learning from you. For those of you that enjoyed the show, please make sure you share that. And a lot of our viewers watch this on a replay, and I can definitely send you the link once when we upload it to YouTube, so you can use it as well.
That'd be great.
What would be something positive you would like to close the show with? Something encouraging for the entrepreneurs watching this?
Sure. It's real simple. If anybody follows me on Facebook, I usually put up a couple of posts out per day. And this is a common saying. I've been saying it a few years now. And I wish I had followed this advice, especially when I was younger. A lot of us as entrepreneurs, we have these grand visions. We have these ideas, and we are impatient fuckers. We want it done like this. We want it done instantaneously. And I'm here to tell you that's just not the way the universe works. Okay, so I say it over and over again. I put it in the bottom of Facebook posts, and it's this simple saying. It's small steps forward daily. Okay, so you don't have to make these giant leaps and bounds each and every day when you come into the office or go to work. However, you do need to make forward progress every day. And if you make continual forward progress, if you take those small steps each and every day towards your end goal, you're going to turn around, let's say 6 months after taking your first step, you're going to turn around, you're going to say, holy shit, look how far I got. And you're not going to realize it at the time. It's kind of like losing weight. Yeah.
I think Einstein said there's nothing more powerful than compound interest. So the easy things are easy to do and also easy not to do. That's what the elite is doing. They do it every day. They know the routine. They know that eventually it's going to count when it matters the most.
That's it.
Hey, Tom, it's been a phenomenal pleasure to have you on the show. I'm sure we're going to have you again. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. How can people find you? How can people hire you? Where can people find your book? And where can people connect with you so they can learn more?
Yeah, the best place is to go to connectwiththomas.com. Right there is a link to pretty much every bit of my online life and ecosystem. You'll find links there to my YouTube channel, all of my social media, links to my book, links to my websites for my companies. And the only thing that I'll tell the listeners is just make sure you don't put an H in my name. My name is actually Tomas, so it's Tomas.
That's right. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been such a pleasure to have you on the show. Make it a great evening, and we'll see you again, Tom.
Thanks, Velko. Have a great night.
You too. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, another episode of the Paradigm Shift goes down in the history, and we had a phenomenal guest. For those of you that did not catch this live, definitely go back from the beginning of the stream. Tom is definitely dropping some golden nuggets. If you're an entrepreneur, business owner, if you're just starting now, or if you're halfway through, or if you're thinking about folding, don't do it yet. Watch the show. You're going to learn a lot of great tips. Make it a great night, and we'll see you again next Thursday.